I'm Josh Evans, and I love to help businesses build the right culture within their organizations so they can be more profitable. Do you want more engaged employees? Do you want your company to be more productive? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm going to share with you the tools that I've used with hundreds of companies varying in size from 60,000 person conglomerates down to 5-person teams. So get ready and join me so we can build the right culture for your business.
Hi, good morning. I'm Joshua M. Evans, and welcome back to my show. That's right, it's another day in the life of Joshua M. Evans. No, I'm a little bit, I'll say not giddy, but catty about it today because I had this crazy conversation earlier in the week, and I ran into a guy I used to work with a long time ago. His name's Adam. He's a very nice guy. He used to be really ambitious, really outgoing, and we had this conversation. I was like, hey, you're getting a coffee. Do you have a few minutes? Like, yeah. So we sat down and started to chat. I started talking to him about this new organization that was, because he shifted, not careers, but he shifted companies, and he's at another organization now. We started talking, hey, how is it? He's like, they run it poorly, man. Like, I have no idea where I'm going. I don't know who to really report to. The attitude's all kind of depressed. And everybody is really watching out for their own back and covering their own tails. They don't have direction, and I hate being there, but, that's just the way it is. And I just couldn't believe it. It's just the way it is. It's not just the way it is. It's the way you accepted it. And so I'm sitting there talking with him, and all I can think about is the fact that he has this place that he doesn't like to be, that he has to go to for 40 hours a week. Like, he thinks that he's just stuck doing it. And he's not. He's not stuck at all. He's made the decision to put up with it. So when he says that's just the way it is, that's not just the way it is. It's his decision that put him there. Right? Some outside force didn't force him to go to this office and sit there. No, he made decisions, right? He chose the route on his life to go, and he sits at that desk and deals with that BS all day long because he chose to. I mean, I hear these sorts of phrases all the time, and I hate to come down on my buddy Adam, right? But he used to be really ambitious. He used to want more out of life and out of his career and out of his profession than this, and all of a sudden, he hates where he's at, but he thinks that's his only option. It's ridiculous. Like, so you people say, oh, well, that's just the way it is. That is not just the way it is. That's the way you've allowed it to be. Or here, what is the phrase? It is what it is. No, it is because you accept it. It doesn't have to be that way. You can make a decision at any moment to change the things around you. Just accepting things as they are and not doing anything about it is really defeatist. It's you're now a punching bag. You're allowing yourself to be a punching bag instead of the force that's doing something. You're the force that's accepting things. Right? Don't allow the world just to wash over you like you're like a passive existence. It's mind-numbingly frustrating to hear people complain about something and then just to accept it. Don't complain then. It's ridiculous. It is so silly to think that complaining would help you. All it does is focus yourself more on the problems. And then you still just accept it? That sort of attitude is not going to put you in a better place in the long term. And so after having this conversation, I was like, why would you just accept this bad organization? And maybe he has to have this job because there aren't other jobs available in his field of expertise. I don't know all the details behind Adam, what he's doing. But my whole thought behind it is if you want a better organization, then you have to make it happen. Don't just sit and accept it, right? You can't just expect other people to bestow great things or great feelings or great emotions or a great work environment upon you. If you want a better organization, you have to make it happen. That's it. You have to make it happen. And that goes with anything, right? And it doesn't even have to be just your company or your professional life. If you want a better relationship with your wife or your girlfriend or your family or your children, you can't just expect them to carry the weight of that. You have to decide to do it. If you want something better, you have to make it happen. It's nobody else's responsibility. It's all on you. People say that happiness is a choice, and it absolutely is. So you can either choose to be happy in the situation you are, or if you're unhappy, you can choose to change the situation. We all have that power, even though we may feel powerless in a certain moment or in a certain situation. We all have the power of how we accept that and how we move forward. Or we can just sit there and wallow in our own self-pity and rub that mud all over ourselves and that's just the way it is. It is what it is. Come on, people. Have a little more initiative, a little more ambition than that. It just angers me to no end to sit down with somebody who has all the abilities and all the skills in the world, right? Like this guy, Adam, like we had a conversation. I've known this guy for 8 years, right? Man, 7 years. And he was sharp. He was an up and coming star, like a rising star within an organization that I worked at a long time ago. And somehow he got put into this role, and it's just kind of beat him up emotionally and psychologically. And now he's just accepting the situation for what it is and how it is. You can't just accept it. It'd be like if I were to walk out to my garden and it's just weeds and crabgrass and just trash plants in my garden and be like, oh, I guess that's just what's in my garden. That stinks. It's not, tomatoes and basil plants and cucumbers. It's weeds. Darn. You don't just accept that situation. Why do we accept that situation in any other aspect of our lives? If I want a garden that's going to be fruitful with stuff that I want to eat or plant or give away to friends or whatever, I have to till it. I have to manage it. I literally have to garden it. I have to tend to my garden. And the same thing happens with our professional lives or our personal lives. If you want anything to change, it's up to you. You have to make the decision to take it from where it is now to where you want it to be. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody else knows your personal drivers, your personal ideas or emotions or excitement about these situations. So if you want a better organization, you have to make it happen. It's that simple. It's that simple. You have to make it happen. And I was thinking about how could I help this guy, Adam? And I mean, heck, if you're in a kind of a similar situation, how can you help your organization, right? Well, there's three little things that'll help you, right? So the first thing is, first you have to admit that there's some sort of a problem. You have to admit that you're facing some sort of a situation that needs to change. That's it. You actually have to admit it. Now, years ago, I was working for this organization, right? It's a technology company, and we had this one guy who was a technical guy that he just wasn't working as hard as we needed him to. We'd give him projects, and he would drag his feet on it. We'd ask him to come to a meeting and be like, I got some other stuff I'd rather do. But these were essential things we needed from him in this role. And so one day we kind of sat him down, me and the other team members, like, hey man, we really need you to step up and we really need you to do this. We really need you to start doing this. We need you to be on time to these sorts of meetings. We need you to start responding to client emails and to our emails quickly. And he's like, none of that's really a priority. And we were trying to tell him what he needed to do to change, but he was never going to change because he didn't want to admit that he was a procrastinator or that he was bad with time management. He just didn't want to admit it. He wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't a bad employee. He just didn't do the things he needed to. And so even when we brought them up, he never wanted to admit that he had to make a change. He just accepted, my emails, they're not timely. They're late. And I'm not always on time to meetings. Well, all of those things are choices that he made, right? Where he put his focus and his time and his effort wasn't on the things that he needed. This was something bad. He never admitted that he needed to change. He never actually sat down and goes, okay, maybe I do need to do these things that the people that are signing my paychecks want from me. So, after several months, and we just tried, they had to let him go. He wasn't a valuable member of our team. Even though we tried to get him there, we knew he had the aptitude. He just didn't have an attitude of wanting to do it, okay? He never wanted to admit that there was some sort of a problem with the way that he did business. He wanted us to bend our expectations to fit his comfort level. And that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works, right? We needed a change. A change needed to happen. And he couldn't do it. And so he was no longer with that company, right? So first thing you have to do if you want to change your organization for the better, you have to admit that some sort of change needs to happen, all right? All right, the second thing is if you decide that a change needs to happen, you need to commit yourself to actually changing. It's not enough just to say, okay, this needs to change, and then to kind of walk away from it. You have to commit yourself, okay, what are we going to do? We have to find a specific time frame to make this happen, to instill these changes, right? Or implement these changes and to move forward. That's what we have to do. Right? So the second, committing to actually changing really can help, okay? It's a crazy thing. I knew a very good friend of mine. Him and his family were having some money troubles. All right, and nothing crazy, but they were having some problems. Right, where he would come to be like, "Hey man, can I borrow some money this month?" No, I don't, because I don't lend money to friends. I just don't do it. But he would come to me and be like, "Well, hold on a second. What?" He's like, "Well, no, I know we have these problems, and we gotta fix them, right? But the guy's driving a brand new friggin' Benz, so I know his car payment was probably $600 because I know he didn't buy it outright, and I know this guy." And he's saying he has trouble paying other bills and other things that he needs to deal with. Well, hold on a second, dude. Hold on. You're making all sorts of other decisions. You're saying you need to change, but you haven't really committed to change. If you were committed to changing, you'd probably get rid of your $600 car payment so you could actually do the other obligations in your life. He wasn't committed to the change. He knew it needed a change. He knew a change needed to happen, but he wasn't actually committed to making a change to move him in the right direction. And that's his fault. That's his own fault. No, I can't make somebody committed to changing. What I can do is stop listening to a sob story. Like, dude, you have the ability to do it. You're just not. You're not committed to it. And we've all seen people that are half-heartedly doing stuff, right? Or they put in half the effort, or a little bit so it seems like they're trying, but they're not really trying. It's like, have you ever seen like somebody, if like they drop like a piece of paper and it starts to blow away in the wind, and they do that like half jog to try and get it. Oh, I'm trying to get it, and they kind of like jog. Oh, I'm almost there, almost, and they're waiting for somebody else to pick it up for them. There's people that treat life like that, right? They kind of like half jog, like, oh, I get it, but it's kind of a strain, but it's that fake jog walk thing. People do that through life. Well, they knew that they need to pick up their pace or to take action, and they just half-ass it. And they're just, I'm almost there, and they're hoping somebody else will pick up the slack and make up for their lack of effort. And it's frustrating, but we all know people like that. Heck, I think all of us has probably been in a situation like that where like we know something needs to change, but we're not quite committed to it, so we're like staying on the fence about it. Absolutely. We all have those situations. We do. And we just drag our feet, and it costs us a lot of time and money and effort later. I'll give you another example. I had an electric company with a variable electric bill rate or whatever it is for kilowatts per hour or cost per kilowatt hour. I don't know. However they do that stuff. Anyway, and so I knew I needed to change because it was going to hike up, but I just waited, and I kind of procrastinated. And I knew I needed to change it, but I wasn't committed to a specific date on when I needed to change it. And I let the date lapse. And so a month went by at the new rate, which is almost double what my old kilowatt hour rate was, whatever that was. And all of a sudden it cost me, a couple $100. Like, oh man, what did I do? It's because I wasn't committed to changing it in the moment. If I'd committed myself to change it, I would have changed it. But instead I let it happen, and it cost me a couple $100. It's just like that in your business, right? Or in your personal life. If you're not committed to changing something, you're never going to change it. So that's the second thing. Commit to actually changing. All right, the third thing, right, is when you're moving towards that and you're committed to changing, find an expert to help you make the change. Find somebody that has intrinsic knowledge of the thing you're trying to adjust and get help. People do it with psychologists or therapists, right, if they're trying to help with psychological issues. People do it with a doctor if you're trying to change poor eating habits or health problems. Of course, we will consult an expert. It happens with every other thing else in our lives, right? So if we have some kind of problem with our personal lives, we might consult a relationship expert, right? Like a therapist or a couples therapist or something like that. If we have a problem in our business, we might consult a business consultant to try and figure it out and try to help us. If we don't get an outside perspective on it, how to change the things that we know need to change, we can be as committed as possible, but we won't know the steps we need to take. Getting that outside perspective can be so valuable. I think a lot of us, especially me, I like to believe that I have all the answers, that I know what I'm doing in every situation within my business and how I need to revamp that and how I need to go after those sorts of clients and how I need to help every single customer and how the best way to get them to come to me is. But I had somebody come to me recently, or I guess it's about a year and a half ago, and said, man, your website's terrible. Why would you say that? I spent a lot of time building that website. I learned how to work on WordPress so I could build the website. And they said, it's terrible. You need to change it. So I started looking at it, right? And I admitted, okay, yeah, there's some parts that absolutely need to be fixed on my website. So I admitted it. Right? I was like, okay, I need to change it. How am I going to change it? I started looking into it, and I realized, you know what? If I don't know how to do it correctly, I should hire somebody that knows how to do it correctly. So I brought in an expert. And now I have an expert that helps me work on my website. Yeah, it costs me a little bit of money, but how much time is it saving me? A ridiculous amount. A ridiculous amount. So in any sort of a situation, right, if you want your organization to better, you have to make it happen. If you want your organization to be better, you have to make it happen. And one of the ways you can make it happen is by finding an expert and bringing them in, right? So whether it's me or somebody else to help you make your organization phenomenal, find somebody that can help you do it. So there's 3 steps again, right? If you want a better organization, you have to make it happen. And here's how you do it. First, admit that there's something that needs to happen. Admit that there's a change that needs to occur. Second, commit to actually making that change. And the third thing is find an expert to help you lessen the learning curve and get you to that next level quicker. Pretty interesting, huh? Okay, so I got an email recently, and this is from Myra. And so Myra goes, hi, my company is terrible and the attitudes stink. That's a great way to open an email, Myra. Thank you. She goes, I just got promoted, and I took over a new team, and they're all very lazy. You know, I'd hesitate to use that word, but luckily I won't say your company or your last name. You know, they're all very lazy. I feel like they don't want to be here. What can I do? Question mark. This is a great question. And Myra, I totally understand where you're coming from. In fact, I think we've all been there where we kind of move into a team and we didn't realize the dynamics when we got there. And it must be really hard to work with people that you feel don't want to be there and don't want to work for you. And so I totally understand where you're coming from. And I don't want to make light of this situation. But you did start off by saying the company is terrible and the attitudes stink. And so I feel maybe they're mimicking your view. And so if you think the company is terrible, then you probably shouldn't be working there, for one thing. You can't be expected to inspire or motivate your team if you think the company is terrible. So let's start there, okay? So I feel for you having to take over a team that's probably not even your team. You probably didn't even choose them, right? But it seems like they have bad attitudes. You're kind of mimicking those sorts of attitudes. So maybe you're influencing how they're acting. If you came in excited every single day and wanting to help out, their attitudes might start changing. I'm just saying. And okay, so another thing, you mentioned you just got promoted into this role, and so it's a whole new team. I don't know if you promoted from the like inside that team, which can be very hard to take authority if it is, or if you're promoted from an outside team so they don't really know what to expect. But what I would suggest to you is if you want some sort of a change to happen, first off, set clear expectations, right? This is where our team needs to be, right? By setting that, then it allows you to admit where you are now. This is where we are now. We're not here, right? But we can get here, and I know we can, and that's you making that commitment towards it, right? So this is where we're at. This is where we want to be, right? And get confirmation, because the second you get them to confirm where they want to be and where they're at, all of a sudden now they're invested in helping you get to that next level, right? Helping your team move to where you want to be. And so they're halfway committed already. So that's great, right? So now you can start moving them. And then you have to find some way to move your team in that direction. So whether it's bringing in new ideas or materials, or maybe sharing articles with them on how they can redevelop their commitment to the work goals that they have in front of them, or how they can re-engage in the work that they're doing. Whatever that might be, find some sort of external help, right? Some expert, whether it's through a book or articles that you're sharing, or actually bringing in a physical person like myself, like to do consulting or something like that. Find somebody that can help you get your team moving towards where you want them to be. I think that's going to be so key for you, okay? And start cutting out the discussions about how your company is terrible. Don't say those sorts of things, because you're perpetuating that sort of mentality, right? Something along the lines of, my company's got a lot of room for growth. That sounds a lot better than my company really has some problems, doesn't it? Absolutely. It's all in the words that we use. So you need to change your words towards hopeful words, right? Positive expectation words. If you want your organization to be better, you have to make it happen. You have to make it happen. Okay, so anybody out there that's like Myra, right, where you're either on this team that feels, complacent, or you're in a group of people that are very negative, or the attitudes stink, as Myra said, right? The attitudes stink. Find ways to make that change. First, you have to admit where you're at. Don't just accept it. Admit where you're at and that a change needs to happen. That's one of the biggest things you can do. Right there, you're already halfway to a solution by admitting that you need to find a solution. That's usually the hardest part, is saying, okay, this isn't where we want to be, is it? Admitting that's one of the hardest parts. The next part, right, is commit yourself to actually finding that change, to going after it and actually doing that. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have people with bad attitudes, first off, and maybe, guys, I think our attitudes are not great right now, don't you think? I'd like for them to be here. What do y'all think? I'd love for us to all really care about the work that we're doing and to be like personally invested in it. Wouldn't that be neat if we could get excited on Monday morning about the work we're doing? And everyone's going to go, yeah, everybody wants to like Mondays, but everybody chooses to hate them, right? Think about that. Nevertheless, using those sorts of words can help you, right? These hopeful words, right? This transitional discussion about where we're going to, not where we are, not just on where we are, but hey, look, this is where we're trying to go. And if we're here, we have to make that change. Don't y'all think? Yeah. Great. Why don't we, over the next 2 months, decide that we're going to start bringing this to the table? We're no longer going to allow people to have these complaining sessions. Instead, why don't we bring in this, or why don't we start doing that? And then you can find that that's where you bring in that expert advice, that knowledge, that wisdom from outside of where you're at right now that can help you in transforming your team. Because if you want a better organization, you have to make it happen. Okay, I'm off my soapbox for the day. Well, thank y'all so much for joining me. Once again, I'm Joshua M. Evans, and it's just my honor to have you here. I hope to see you again next week. If you want to reach out and you want to ask me a question, hey, maybe I'll answer it on one of these podcasts. You can email me, info@joshuaemevans.com. Check me out on all the social media, @enthusiasticyou, YOU, and I will see y'all next week. Bye.